The Horsemanship Remarks Show. I was waiting for Michael, but um, I think that he's going to be here in a minute because I know he was just about ready to roll. Let's see. It is the last. It's the last day of April. 2026. 2026. Oh my gosh, I was looking back through some memories. I was looking for a specific video, I think. And it's crazy to think back on like the cold start with frosting and oh my gosh, such good times. I found some really hilarious photos of Michael. Oh my gosh, they're so good of him starting some bronchi horses. So we'll see if Michael wants to join us this morning. What's going on with you guys? Is everyone happy about spring? I was thinking this morning, I'm like, Gabrielle, good morning. I was thinking uh not everybody's excited about spring. And not everybody is excited about the 90 degree weather that we're about to have in Portland. So, Julie, good morning. Michelle, good morning. Isn't that interesting? Oh, I put that short clip of Rosie onto my iPad so I can show you guys in a second here. I'm holding my phone because when Michael does decide to jump in, I have to be able to touch the bottom button. Technology is so annoying. It's so cool, but also so annoying. So I have some Rosie stories, and we're gonna go pick up Revlon. Kip and I are gonna go. Well, actually, John is gonna meet us halfway to pick up Revlon on Saturday. So that's very cool. She went to her little uh, kindergarten, so that was really neat. And I'm excited for her to get home. That'll be really fun. It'll be funny to see Flower be like, I thought you were gone forever. She'll be back. Jeannie, good morning. What do you think happened to Michael, you guys? I don't see any message here. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my deal and we'll see that. Here we go. The second I went to do that, he pops in. So there we go. We're going, Michael.
We're going.
Yeah, we're going. Hello. You're frozen. That's okay. Now you're back.
Okay, good.
Yep. The sun's up already. Hooray. I know you're not super excited about the warm weather.
No, it's been, I don't know. Am I ever satisfied?
I know. It's always something, right?
The temperature's been good. I've been, um, you know, any sort of agriculture, you're pleased with the rain, you're not pleased with the rain. Like the rain came, kind of foiled some of the plans, spring plans as far as pasture management. And then now it's supposed to be dry for 2 weeks. So it's like, it's raining. It's not raining. But temperatures have been about ideal for me.
That's cool. Yeah, pretty much here too, I would say. My dad came to visit. I forgot to tell you this. My dad came to visit over the weekend, and it was so cool because I have that zero gravity chair. You guys know what a zero? I'd never heard of it until I went to find the chair. You know what I'm talking about? Does
Is
it?
it one that just inclines?
It reclines, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
reclines,
like,
not inclines.
good morning, Joy. Good morning, Corey. Lisa.
It's
Good
like
morning.
basically laying in a contoured bed. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
those are nice. Those are comfy.
And so my dad has some pretty serious arthritis in his neck. He's 80 and in his neck. And so, even just sitting in a camping chair, outside is that pretty soon then he's holding his head. But I guess it feels fine when he lays down. So I was like, aha, I have the perfect solution. So I turned out the 8 horses, the 8 mares. Well, it's 7 mares and a gelding out there. And then I put him in the zero gravity chair. And he's not really one to be like, oh, let's observe horses for, a few hours. But we got to, yeah, Lisa, she knows what it is. We got to sit out there. Here's my point about the weather: not too hot, not too cold, no wind, no bugs. It's like, all right, this is our 10 days of
Yeah.
throughout the year where it's just perfect. And so it was awesome and neat to be able to talk about all the different body styles and shapes and stories. And yeah, it held his attention for a long time. I was pretty amazed. Hmm. Yeah, weather's been great. Perfect for yard work. Oh yeah, Lisa and her yard work. Uh-huh. We've done some. Kip and I got a tractor. I told you that, Michael. We've been here for 23 years with no tractor.
That's impressive. No skid steer, no tractor.
Yeah, those of you guys that have
How
been here
how how have you moved manure, like large amounts of manure?
hired somebody, which we probably will do again just because it's not a big one.
Hmm.
You know. I know, Lisa, a tractor. Yeah, it's small. It's a subcompact, but it's a powerful little deal. Got the little backhoe, you know, attachment, the little um what's the blade, So anyway, it'll be cool. A tractor was the first thing we bought in Scio. I know most people buy a tractor right away. I'm like, what do you need a tractor for? Anyway,
Everyone's setup is different, but here I find the small tractor to be the least used piece of equipment. It's
you
kind
have
of it's kind of annoying to me.
it, I bet.
I mean, it's just we use it to mow pastures, but honestly, it'd be way better to get a 3-point hitch mower for the larger tractor. It would take way less time. The machine would handle the pastures a lot because we've had moles in the past, and so the pastures are pretty uneven, and it's just really hard on the small mower.
That would take
Yeah,
forever.
guys.
Little mower at your place.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a small deck, but yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But then you're spending however much to get I would want one of the Batwing
Oh,
mowers, which
yeah.
those are, so you're only doing like 6 passes, but you know, those cost quite a bit. When we first got here, though, they were mowing the pastures, which the pastures were awful, so there wasn't a heck of a lot to mow. Half of them were basically sand. Um, but they were mowing it with a brush hog on the front of the Bobcat, which I cannot imagine balancing, and it would just scarf the ground, which is probably why half of it was sand because they were just tilling up their grass with the brush hog, I'm sure.
Thrashing all the roots and everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine doing it. And the Bobcat that they had when we bought the place was awful too. I mean, it was just a rinky dink little thing. That was the first thing we sold when we got here.
Hmm. Yeah, well, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to have a little bit of power. The big thing, for us is spreading rock. Like instead of,
Gravel.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of a huge deal. Like, oh, right away, Kip cut the driveway. You know,
Like,
yeah, oh yeah. So we had to figure out how to switch out implements and all that. So anyway, kind of wild. You know what my favorite thing about this tractor is so far? It's quiet. Our John Deere side by side is so loud compared to this thing. I'm like, yay, that's so nice. So anyway, spring chores, you guys. And I'm out there with the deer, the liquid fence. Lisa, have you used the liquid fence on your um you did, right? We talked about this last year. Uh, on the bushes and stuff. Do you guys have deer, Michael, that come in and eat everything?
too many deer.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
considering taking up a little bit of hunting just to.
Will that help?
No, it won't, but maybe if I got me and all of my friends that hunt to, it still wouldn't help, but we'd have to do it year over year over year. Maybe it would help. I don't think so, but I guess just annoying. I was actually, you know, getting out in the woods yesterday and trying to write up a list for Segundo, and it's it's like every tree that would possibly grow into a mature overstory tree is nipped off. Like every single native. All the garbage trees, all the undergrowth that has killed the whole forest, they won't
It's
touch.
like,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You have to put cages around them and then they would get to a certain height? Yeah. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
then you put cages around them and whatever weeds and grass grow in there, and even that stunts the growth. So really ideally every late spring or summer you're in there, pull the cages off and tilling up and pulling whatever grass and other plants in there for a while. But I mean, it is worth it provided you have a wet year. They can really get a jump on things if you do that. But
Mhm. Mhm. We have to go into the forest and cut some stuff down, like the maple here. We have maple, which I love the maple, but it will choke out the forest. Same thing. The thing is, if you thinned out the deer, then it would just take the one deer coming through. Lisa says, okay, so she says the liquid fence seems to change their habits. Oh, good, because I'm excited to do that with the arena. Gonna spray the arena Sunday, and then I'm gonna do with pyrethrin, and then do the liquid fence at the back, Lisa. So I really hope that that will change their habits. So Sarah, thank you. Yeah, we're excited. Kip's excited. Hunting deer is like trying to empty a 5-gallon bucket with a measuring cup while the hose is running. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. And they're fun to see, of course, but when you're just like, look, I just want to grow some zucchini and some cucumber, like it's not that tall of an order. Few whiskey barrels full of flowers, that's it. Using it around the arena. Yeah, that's the big thing.
so the other thing on the trees, even if you cage them, at a certain point you don't need the cage anymore because they're not nipping off the tops and they can grow. But then for whatever reason, the bucks also like to rip up all the native trees. They won't rub on the buckthorn, they won't rub on the here we have a maple tree that's like a scrub, not a real attractive tree, and it's short lived, so it kills out the canopy and then just falls over rotted. Why am I escaping? Box elder. Any case, they won't touch those two, but they will. Anytime you get a cherry tree that is tall enough that you could take the cage off of it, they'll just strip it all the way around, rubbing their rack on it. Or pine trees, you save them until they can't nip the tops off, and then once they're about, I don't know, 2 to 3 inch trunk, they'll get in there and just shred it all the way around. So you kind of have to protect them until they're big enough that, or the pine trees, if you get enough branches around the bottom, they can't get in there. But
Sure, sure.
if your bottom branches die off, you have a dry year and it's just the leader that's staying alive. Well, now the bottom's always exposed and it's battle.
hmm Well, you know what I'm excited about the backhoe is we can dig some holes for some trees because we do have some really nice fir trees that are growing up by the house, but I don't want them at the house because and then we're really not going to have any sun, But I do want some along the road, um, or along the little, the shared road. So we're gonna try. I don't know how hard it is, but we'll try we'll have to water them all summer for sure.
Mhm.
Maybe even next summer. It depends. but I think we'll try a couple and see if they take a hold. We did one time we put a cedar in. Well, we've planted a lot of cedar, but it's from little saplings, and we did it at the right time of year, you know. But one time we did plant a big cedar tree, like maybe it was 7 feet or something. And but I was out there with the hose every every day for like 6 months, but now it's huge. So yeah, trees are so key. uh, when we sell property, when I sell property, it's like, man, people value mature trees more and more.
Well, and someone pointed out to me recently, which is just so disappointing. So we have basically understory death. Like it is pure buckthorn, which is a, I think, Chinese and Asian introduction. It was a hedge plant, but it produces so many seeds, and the birds love the seeds. Even though the deer don't kill the plant, the birds love to propagate it. And it's like in this area of Wisconsin, it's not in northern Wisconsin, it's in Minnesota. I'm not sure beyond that because that's where my eyes have seen it. Um, but what was I thinking? Okay, so it just kills the understory. I mean, it's just like you clear the buckthorn, and there is zero anything on the ground. It's just dirt. But not so much our trees, but definitely Tom and Michelle have lost probably in the last 2 years 10 huge mature trees that were alive, like massive trees, and they were not sick, dying, dead, anything. I'm like, what in the world is going on with their trees? And someone pointed out that's the buckthorn too. It's depleted the soil and the health of the soil enough that the mature trees don't have, enough structure in the roots, or the soil is just not solid and alive enough to keep them stable. So it's like not only is it literally destroying the understory, it's also prematurely taking out what mature trees are there. Literally, eventually, we are going to have a field of buckthorn
Oh,
unless, and we didn't realize it when we bought the property. Oh, there's so many, the woods are so nice and it's thick and you feel like you're in the woods. And then you realize what's actually out there and taking place as you know begin to tend it and spend time and see what's going on and do some research. It's like, okay, well, now you have this decades long project that takes hours and hours of time to manage and try to, it's not quite as bad as trying to deplete a deer population with a measuring cup, but it's certainly kind of a losing. It takes a lot of maintenance. I have learned some things that work. I actually had the DNR guy out here quite excitedly, like, "You've got to come see this. This was the ticket." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tell everybody this." So we've had a few successes that are like feel good because there's at least a plan that we know works. So,
sure.
which I might as well tell the plan because it's kind of interesting. So you you cut the buckthorn, you have to poison the stump. We're not doing foliar application and spraying everything because there are a lot of cherry trees and whatever. But now, like I said, I'm realizing I have to protect every living one of them. Um, but cutting everything allows some native stuff to peep through. But it's so depleted, you know, it's all going to be weeds or more buckthorn because there are a million seeds in the ground. But in Minnesota, there was research. They were saying planting Virginia wild rye, and I've done some research. You can do 3 different types of rye, and one is quick growing, takes hold the first year, kind of chokes out other things, and then it dies off, and then you're able to plant, the other rye that you already planted. Are able to make their way in their perennials, or longer lasting perennials. Any case, I planted one section, so we cleared this whole bluff. planted one section with Virginia wild rye. I didn't even do the winter rye, that's the quick growing. And then the other side of the bluff, I didn't plant it. And it was like you could see the line where I stopped planting it. And it wasn't just, okay, there's rye here and there's not. Obviously, there wasn't even seed over there. But the buckthorn at the end of that first season, because we planted it in the spring, the rye was literally only like inches tall, but the regeneration of the buckthorn was so minimal.
Wow.
On
Mm,
the other side, the buckthorn was a foot tall by the end of the season.
that's cool.
So it isn't just it getting tall enough to choke it out. There had to been some chemical
Yeah, yeah.
composition in the soil. The seed of the Virginia wild rye inhibited the regeneration of the buckthorn. So that was fine. At
Cool.
least until the trees are big enough to squash your house. They're far enough away from the house, so I'm not worried about that.
Well, yeah, she has trees around her house, and so do I.
Yeah.
So she's
Although we do have one in the front yard here that is tall, but that succumbed to the emerald ash borer. I mean, we have the emerald ash borer killing the ash. We have um what's it called? Oak wilt, which is a bug that gets in and creates causes the oak to die. And the oak are the primary trees here, and those are the slowest freaking trees to grow ever. So losing all the ash, losing all the oak. Tom and Michelle are losing trees that aren't ash and oak. I think basswood are the ones that the buckthorn is, causing the soil to not be solid enough for those. So it's just like dead, dead, dead.
that's
So
awful. You know what I was wondering? Because these guys who raise fir trees around here, they're always eyeballing the manure pile. They're like,
yeah,
"Oh, this is so good," and I'm thinking, should I move some of my manure pile into the forest?
yeah. I
You,
haven't thought about spreading the manure in the forest. That's a
I
interesting idea.
I wouldn't have thought of it either until the nursery guys were like, "Oh yeah, that would be." It's all a matter. Daisy, Daisy, I'm doing this show. You have to be quiet.
Well, it would be it makes sense because to compost manure, you need like the is it the nitrogen? Oh, I don't remember what the wood and the leaves and all that brings into the picture, but we have very little hay waste and we do almost no stalling outside of um, injury, temporary stalling. So ours is pretty well straight manure, which slows because there's no air. Not only the chemical lack of whatever the wood would bring to the picture, but the manure just like there's no airspace in it as it breaks down, so it just doesn't compost as quickly. Not to mention, there's so much of it we have a hard time turning it. Um, but if you spread it in the forest, it mixes with the leaves that would compost it in situ a little better.
Yeah.
There's a
I,
archaeological term.
a what?
Archaeological term. I mean, it's
In
used elsewhere too. In situ. I believe it's probably Latin. Sounds Latin.
E or I?
Uh, in, like literally in Sito Sitio.
What does it mean? Like in place?
So yes, in place. So if you're on a dig and you are careless or it's been excavated for commercial production and they didn't realize there was ancient, you know, civilization or like relics there. If the backhoe pulls a bunch up, it's no longer in situ, so it's like of limited value. You've just got a bunch of pottery or whatnot. But then you go to systematically on a grid excavating it, and you find this, ivory comb up against the wall, and all that. It's more valuable because you can put it in context.
Interesting. The archaeologist.
I
Remember
didn't
that?
know archaeology, but it was fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. So cool. I'm sure we all remember doing that as a child to some degree. You guys, I did Kip and I did a vlog on here. Um, Vlog 187. I think if you search that, you'll find it. It's Be Like an Archaeologist. And kind of relates to this idea.
187, was that years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2000, March of 2017.
So you must have you had to have just looked this up because you didn't just remember that.
No, in fact, I was talking to Terry.
You know.
And I'm like, I think I can't remember which one. And it was like 5 seconds later. And he's like, well, actually, it was vlog 187. And here's your timestamps. And here's what you were talking. And I'm like, this is so creepy. But I'm glad I have it. Yeah. So now I know which one it was. Valuable for sure. Yeah. Interesting forest management. Oh my gosh. And all the colors right now. Gorgeous. So, what
Do you have
else?
spring colors and fall colors? I
Hmm.
guess this is a botany show today.
Botany. Yeah. Yeah, I would say we don't have fall colors like you guys do. But because our forest is more evergreen. So,
So what makes the colors in the spring? The blooming of
oh, I guess I just mean, yeah, like right now it's just a million shades of green. That's sort of the thing. And of course then when you put sunlight on it, you can really see. And we have all the moss, so the it's just, I mean, it's a good feeling. Except for you guys, we all have uh pollen on the cars right now from the maple. Like it's so much pollen. Like we're breathing that in. No wonder we feel drugged for for like 60 days. We're all like not in a good way. So, Michael, what do you think? Did you watch the little video clip? Shall we talk about horsemanship, you guys? On
the
horsemanship?
5 second. The 5 second.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that was Rosie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing, I put it on my iPad so I could show you guys in case you're. I put it on the. Oh, I need to
So,
respond to.
so interesting. Your thoughts lately on Rosie and what that video highlights, which you could probably hold it up so folks can see it on your iPad, but that video highlights just how kind of stringy everything is in her neck over against what she looks like now, and your emphasis or your thoughts have been lately on how remarkable this change is, and it's more than just groceries or exercise because she's had groceries all the way along, all of that. It is interesting how much um and the two aren't mutually exclusive because emotional tension or tension brought on by emotion and um, lack of safety uh, will certainly deteriorate the body, but how much pain or discomfort in moving can really deteriorate the body
Mm-hmm.
relatively quickly too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the whole horse working together is so interesting. And then the wrinkles at the base of the neck from last night made me think about the baking bread thing. Because like we had a really cool session. I want to video. I have errands and a few work things I have to do today. But I'm going to try to set up the video camera for the insiders. Showing Rosie learning to canter online because it's really fun to watch because she's so expressive and she's not good at it, and she has emotional baggage about it, and she doesn't understand how freaking cool it's going to be when she can do it and the implications of all of it. So I was playing around with it last night, which was basically our second day because for a while like she couldn't even handle going at all without like having anyway. I was like, oh, I gotta roll the camera. So it might be just a messy one, but I think you guys will enjoy even just seeing some of the process. Yeah, Michelle, it's really cool. Um, 'cause anyway, I love that part when you have a horse that is um what am I trying to say? Just doesn't know how cool it's going to be.
Yeah. It is interesting how different helping them make those transitions in the round corral where there's the length and the room and you can tip them up into it a little bit, like just
Like loose,
lengthen the
you mean?
trot. What's that?
Are you talking about loose?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Over against doing it on the end of the lead rope.
Which
And
is how I'm doing it with her.
yeah.
Hmm.
But I mean, have you not done it loose at all? No.
I mean, Gary did it, obviously, loose.
Yeah.
But I have not because I've wanted to support her so far.
I have been thinking too about how much just on a on a sort of obvious, or at least obvious with some experience, um, kind of able to be described as a bit of a formula, if you will, how many things there are. For example, transitioning in the, through the gates in the round corral. Like as soon as they get to anticipating it or feeling like, oh, this is the goal, they can get some anxiety around it because they know it's the goal, but they're not quite there yet. And so you have to be like, okay, let's not think about the goal for a while. Right? Let's just like it's almost like, okay, that doesn't matter. Right now, let's just I don't want you to do that. Let's find the rhythm. And you can think the same thing with lead changes. It's like, okay, well, we are working on the lead. Oh, now we are not working on lead changes because like you're getting hyped up because you're not sure about it yet. And you're getting ahead of yourself and you're putting all this pressure on yourself maybe to figure it out and get it. Or it can be um, even like a hindquarter, forequarter, where it's like, okay, you got the idea of the forequarter, but now you're cheating the hindquarter because you're too ready for the forequarter. So now we have to leave that alone. Or it can be in the hindquarter yield and they're first learning it, or maybe they've already been unintentionally um, led to believe that a hindquarter yield is plant the front foot and just kind of maybe even whip the hindquarters around. So in that case, you're like, okay, let's not do a lot of stopping the front end. Let's do a little drift and walk forward, drift and walk forward. Well, as soon as that horse begins to go, oh, I don't plant the front foot, or maybe another horse is never able, doesn't really get dialed in. So then you really have to stack on. Let's do this till the front foot stops, starts to dial in. Maybe not plant, but does get stopped. We have a breakover. But then as soon as they're thinking breakover, it's like, oh, hold on. We do need to keep moving. And so now we're going to stack on a higher percentage, maybe leave alone the breakover and just do a drift and flow out of it. And, so much of that can be like with experience extremely obvious. You're not really consciously thinking about it. Although it is so obvious, you are going, okay, we're starting to assume, we're starting to get ahead. Let's stack this on. But I've found it is a fairly concrete way or area, various areas in which I can point out to people, okay, now see, like here's another example of them assuming what's coming next or getting ahead of themselves or losing the relaxation that we're really going to need to do this thoughtfully rate it back, pretend that doesn't matter, like leave that alone for a while. Um, anyway, I've just had a number of, and I guess the reason I mention it is I've talked about it all along. I notice it all along. Like starting a colt, you start doing a forequarter yield, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and then you like right away you can feel the hindquarter yield not being on their mind. It's like, oh, okay, we're not going to bring the front end through for a while. Like that's normal, right? It's
Tender is the word you're thinking of.
standard.
That
Yes, it's standard process. Like you're always doing that, but I've been able to kind of categorize it like I just did for folks and point out all the examples that of which I just gave, and I'm sure there are others. Um, like you do need to watch for this anticipatory, anxious energy coming in there, and say it's not that important. You're missing the whole point. Um, reason I bring it up there is you see that pretty easily. Um, Loose in the round corral. You can as well on the end of the lead rope, but it's a little bit less so unless you're chasing him into it on the lead rope. It's a little less so on the lead rope.
yeah, I think there's different values certainly, or different benefits to doing it loose or on the line. Um, that you kind of have to, or at least I'm weaving my way through which is which for, that part's not necessarily standard. Well, in that way, but yeah, the whole point of like, okay, horsey, watch me first of all. There's a system of aids here that's the most important thing. It's not the doing of things. It's like get hooked on, you know, and that's like an intellectual item.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but it's so funny last night because she's comfortable, more comfortable on her left lead. But one of the things she did, especially on her first ride with Gary, like she would just stop, like just jerk into the ground when he would ask her for canter. She'd be trotting along. She's comfortable walk trot for sure. Like the difference that she feels between trotting around and cantering is more than is normal for a horse that's been handled this much, I think. But anyway, she would just like and it just hurts your body. I'm like, oh my god, you can't do that well. And then so that was even going to the left, like just jam into the ground and want to turn the other way. It's just like, I don't know what you're doing or how that is better for you, you know. But anyway, her left lead is still better. And then her right lead, at first I'll show you guys because it's really interesting for her. She goes around with this expression, now, and like even when she gets unsure, it's a totally different expression than when she's like, "Oh, I've got to go, can't her ears go back." It's like it's a really interesting expression,
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. And so it was pretty fun to play with the same sort of casual conversation you saw with her jumping the barrels,
Mm-hmm.
like going around to the right, and at first she would just thrash down on her right front foot. I'm like, is that really what you want to be doing? And I'd be like, it's okay, don't stress. And then pretty soon she was picking up the left lead, and I'm like, that's a left lead. And so, just like so not an emergency about any of it. And
Mm-hmm.
what's amazing to me, Michael, watching her is, i- and I'm kind of obsessed with the Vivian thing right now, looking through old pictures and stuff. But the kind of like, I can't believe you're moving like that. I would not have expected it. So the way she reaches underneath herself to slow down movement with her hind legs, I'm like, let me tell you right now, horsey, you can use that. Like your abilities there are through the what are you doing with your front feet? You don't need them. You
Mhm.
don't need them. And so you think, okay, well, so is this a defense? Like, what are you doing? But I told her yesterday, I'm like, look, I would never be able to ride that, just so you know. I'd just fall off in front of you. And 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 I'm like, and I don't think you would want to try to carry me around through that either. It's like, but also you just think, what, like, why did you come up with that? I guess that's part of the other thing too. It's watching horses, and who knows, maybe I just haven't seen enough horses. But some things you're just like, I wonder why that would come up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but it's kind of neat to have all these other little bits, and so much, like Michelle, like we were talking about, so much the five principles just starting to do their work through the whole thing, and even if you don't work on the thing, like we've talked about forever, the scaffolding starts to shore you up. And 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 you're like, oh yay, you don't have to lay that down, or like you think of putting a ladder, or I think of the scaffolding for building something. I was I'm listening to this book about Chicago in the early 1800s, or in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and one of the things was the first skyscrapers, and how they have issues with their soil there too, similar to what we have. And you probably know this, Michael probably already knows this, but they figured out how to do the floating foundation. Yeah. And so I think about that same, any of those concepts where it's like you don't have to do that over and over again. It's like if it's really there, it's kind of cool. You're like, "Oh, yay. That's there, so long as you don't wreck it and
Mhm.
suddenly get weird." Like the person getting all weird. Sometimes that happens, like so task oriented or whatever. So long as you stay normal, then the horse can. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Well,
interesting.
I'm thinking too. Just yesterday, I was riding Flash, and you can just feel like he was safe to get on his version of well, he's not super forwards. He's not going to run off with you as much as he lifts his head and gets all inside out and sucks back. He doesn't. He has reared, but I don't see him rearing. His bucking is basically putting his head down and doing this with his back. It's comical. It's not bucking, but that's what he does.
That's the
Where
sense.
another horse might buck, right? So it's like this is going to be hilarious if he gets scared or has trouble. He's just going to be like, "Whoa," and I'll sit there and laugh at him, right? So I got on him. There's things that we're making lots of progress on, but aren't just golden smoothed out 100%, because they're patterns that are related to some of how he's operated, how he's built, his just general tendency to go around with anxiety that exacerbates the way in which um, he could move ideally but doesn't. um, you see the horse running around with their tail in the air and their head like this versus, you know, okay, that's natural, but it's not wonderful. And he travels that way much of the time because it's always on alert and whatever. Any case, so we're making progress on all of it, but it's not just 100% smoothed out. And yet it's like I'm gonna be fine getting on him, so we'll just start working it from the saddle too. And as I'm riding, I'm going, how valuable is my being up here starting this from the saddle because he's really not worried about me being up there. I mean, he was a little bit like, oh, this is new, over against having it truly 100%. I mean, it's a little bit much, not perfect, but really solid on the ground. The forward, the stretching out long, the following a field just without any thought to go elsewhere. Which that one was interesting, and I'm thinking in terms of latitude because I'm on his back. He's a little bit like, "Oh, this is new. What are you doing up there?" And then bring his head around, and he's really bendy on the neck. Usually goes right to the hind leg, but he got a little stuck there just because his rib cage was tight because he's feeling my legs. And so I do a little bit, just tap him over, and he got it. Um, and then after a few times of that, it just went right through to his hind leg, just like it does on the ground. No big deal. And so then there was one moment, I'm not even sure what exactly drew his attention, but something I was, setting to go around the round curl to the right, and he had the thought to go left because something distracted him down to the left. And he's like, oh, I got to look at that. And if it was just like, if I had more latitude of, um, paying attention to you and being hooked on to your energy, um, just going with you without any question of, okay, I'm distracted, but I really do need to look at that. Like the distraction, he thinks about that, but goes this way, just 100% anyway. Um, how much more latitude I would have had there to catch him. Whereas, I blocked him. We went to the right anyway. But there was the moment, and that was really the first and probably only moment in that ride where he had an idea and he was like, I'm going to go with my idea. And then thereafter, going right did not feel the same as going left. And it did not feel the same as it did at the beginning of the ride, even though I prevailed, even though it got better. It like was this seed that was planted
Mm.
that wasn't there because of the preparation I'd done, but the preparation wasn't so rock solid. And maybe I'm thinking in some ideal world, and he would have still been distracted, and there would have still been, but it could have been less had we had it more solid on the ground, not just in terms of, oh, I feel physically and mechanically the lead or the rein in this case, which I was in halter, so I guess still the lead, leading me around to the right, but more the I feel you talking to me and I'm thinking about you in the face of any distraction. You can distract me from the distraction back to you without like just an automatic response, a conditioned response, if you will, of connecting and thinking back to you as opposed to I really need to think over there. And that's a young distracted horse. Pharaoh was absolutely the same way for quite a time. Like everything drew her attention. um but I don't know, it just caused me to think how much latitude would having that more solid on the ground, or basically just taking more time to go, we're gonna go until just keep working groundwork, different scenarios, different pictures, continuing to do it in busy environments where horses are coming in, your buddy's there, your buddy leaves, and say, nope, just stay with me, you're good, you're good, you're good, until it's just he's like, I'm good. And then you get on and you don't have that moment, or you're much less likely to have that moment of, oh, I gotta pay attention to that. And if you do, he's that much more ready to go, okay, I was distracted by that, but oh, we're doing this thing. So I don't know. It's just thoughts that were rolling as I was doing that, like how much could this be avoided? And then at kind of at what cost? Like how long would I have to go? How much time would I have to take to get it whatever measure of solid from the ground that just wouldn't come up in the saddle,
Mhm.
right? Or like you were saying with Rosie, and she just would kind of throw on the brakes when you'd ask for the lope. Sometimes it's like with him,
And
like
not in
he
a
was much more freely forward, and I could loosen the round corral or on the end of the line. He just like floop right up into the lope where he's tends to be a little more sucked back and sticky, just as his general way of going. So you get it better. But then if he had that latitude or that kind of initial response of, okay, but I'm going to cooperate, or it's like, yeah, how much easier would that first few rides have been without that? Okay, now you're asking, and now your legs, and it's only been a few times where I got a little stuck, and you had to kind of bump, bump, bump with your legs and give me the time to come through. Well, could that have just happened?
Mhm. Mhm. Michael's frozen more quickly, is what he meant. Gabrielle, what if she watched you canter? Are you back, Michael?
Yeah, I'm back. So let me finish that thought. A little bit I was thinking about your, thinking about Rosie and like how much latitude would I have, just doing all this to get on. And she's more confident and trusting as opposed to, you know, getting things to smooth out, but not having that anchor physically to where she is looking for you on another level.
And also just like the whole idea of have like this is not the end game. Sometimes is that a little bit like
You
the
mean the physical moving out, the physical doing the thing?
but also just like there it seems like she gets to this dead end in her mind because she doesn't understand. I don't know, it's like I'm not thinking of a good metaphor in the moment. You guys think about something that would be a good metaphor for she thinks there's like this little tiny yard to be in. I don't like that idea. But like it's like thinking that there's only the primary colors. It's like, yeah, but look, we're gonna paint this amazing mosaic, and there's all these different, colors and combinations and shapes, and like, and she's not yet. She's on the brink a little bit, and it's interesting how few things you need to show a horse before they start to go, aha, there's more to this than I thought. Do you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like there's just this dead end. It's just like I'm just gonna get through this, or this is like the brick wall, or and it's not necessarily just Rosie at all. But she definitely, a few things. That's why jumping the barrels to me at times is like a really good key, or something as simple as standing on a pedestal, or walking over something where it's like, all right, I got something accomplished.
Yeah, and in that candid video, you said horses like things that are obvious, which
Hmm.
is completely true. Okay, I get on the pedestal. You get excited. This is fairly concrete. This isn't like find the balance, have the feet moving relative to the other feet, shifting the weight, all of this. Like that's pretty complex. And yet, when you say there's more to this than just I got to get over the barrels or I got to move my hindquarters, the more specific you can be in some cases, that is what gets them thinking, oh, there's you have more in mind than me just
Yes.
making my way through this. So,
And I walked her over to or I sent her over the barrels a couple times yesterday, and I just was thinking of like, It's such a one and done deal, and then you check it a couple times or whenever they happen to be around or whenever something it's like hop them over something, but it's not. I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like that's a valuable thing to do, but using it to say, okay, good job. Now that was obvious. Look how good you did. Super. Let me show you something else. And then once like a few things start to add up to be, for instance, she does not have her forequarter yelled yet. She literally, like, if you send the forequarters across, yesterday at the end, we kind of got a few little deals, but her hindquarters will come towards you. They come unlocked towards you. So if I'm on her
That's
left side,
wild.
forequarters to the right, the hindquarters will come towards you. You're
That's
like,
wild.
and you just think, that's your plan? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like one and once the horse starts to feel that kind of a like I don't know, it's crazy how they start to hook on to those different thoughts, you know, of like, okay, you're kind of thinking like, I don't know what you're doing. And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah, but and they're like, oh, well, yeah, totally. You know, like, that kind of a thing where you start to be, then you start to play in a different game,
Mm.
where there's so much, but like that obvious thing where it's like, okay, let's make a few things very, very clear so that you can start to feel successful. But like the stopping and not going forward, the jerking to a stop, you think of like it's the slamming down on the front feet. That just like you think of a horse like stopping and going the other way or whatever. That seems more normal. It's like if you're going around at X number of miles per hour, 5 miles an hour or whatever, and then you add like 10 miles an hour to slam on your front feet, you're like, what? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Mm.
in what world does that make sense to you? Unless I guess you're trying to get rid of the rider. Perhaps that would, that if that's your way of like launching it.
Oh,
But
okay. So, in what world does it make sense? Yes, got it. Especially if we're thinking and trying to do this optimally. But how many times do horses operate? Like I'm thinking of Flash is out there, and introduced him to the other horses. It was a shit show. It was insane. And if I was weak-willed, I would have been like, stop it. But I've seen Katniss go to freaking town with my dad's horse Scarlet years and years ago, and you know they both walked away limping and sore, and it all worked out. And yesterday was the same. It was like, wow, ee,
yeah,
ugh. But they both walked away, some hoof marks on them, and like neither of them limping, thankfully. But they got it worked out, and it was 3 or 4 times of like some serious. And this was Flash with Pepita. Flash could stand over Pepita, probably not actually, but his leg is, even if his belly wouldn't go over her back, his leg extends to the top of her hip, just the leg portion, not his hip. And so he's got at least another 2 feet of firing power against Pepita. But Pepita's just like a force, and she backed him down like time over time, butt to butt, insane. So, okay, how does this serve you? Not that part, but the coming part. He is now freaking scared of this little bitty horse. She's a POA. She's not like a Shetland. I mean, she's very nicely put together. She looks like a miniature horse. But she's little. And so he's running around the pen, head in the air. He's definitely stopping on his front feet. Why? Because he is tense. Now, if he was running around and all playful and he's not going to stop the same as when his head's in the air and he's like, oh shit. Now, it's probably more over his hindquarters than it would be if he was just like kind of hard bogging down on it. But it is certainly natural, normal for them to stop shitty
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they're in an elevated, worried state,
Yes,
right?
but do you see them double their miles per hour? That part makes no sense. To stop
Yes.
shitting is one thing, for sure. Like, because some horses are just not, they're just getting it done. But why would you make it worse for yourself by adding miles per hour?
Yeah.
That you're like, that doesn't look right to me. But you're 100%, if you're just trying to get stopped so you can turn away or not run into a brick wall or whatever. It's like, of course, that's not going to be like hope doing it. But
Yeah. The accelerating.
yeah, it literally accelerating into, it would be like if you're on a
Well,
motor and
certainly, yeah. How does that serve you? I mean, that's without question. You can ask them that. But the place where I see that the most is when a horse is stopping with a brace. They're not prepared. It's kind of slammed on them. They they come into the rein and push against it to stop because you know they've been taught to do that unintentionally. Um, and that's where that kind of accelerating or just like driving down there, it's almost like they're looking for the wall of the bit
yeah,
to stop themselves.
to lean on. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing that devoid of the rider, I can't think of examples of that per se.
It's just funny when you
But
see weird things where you're like, and then the horse is like, what? You're like, yeah, that why would you do that? And they're like, I wasn't doing that. You're like, okay. You know what I mean? and then they just get their shit together and you're like, mm-hmm, that's what I would do.
yeah.
I guess what occurred to me is like, if it's not normal, I guess if it's super confirmed, then you're gonna run into trouble. But kind of like exactly like you're saying, a horse that goes around, leaning into the bit or just being heavy or being dull or whatever, and then it's like, yeah, the thing is that that's not their preference.
Hmm.
And so it doesn't take very long if you show them like, how about you do it like this, and we won't tell anyone you're.
And that's just so hard though. Like I think everyone wants to tell them how about you do it like this, but that's not easy without
Oh,
the
sure.
experience and skill to do it, right? Like I can think of numerous horses that go really well for me or for Eva. And a lot of it, honestly, a lot of it has to do, well, I was going to say a lot of it has to do with the soft feel, but it's not. That's certainly a tricky one. Um, because there is so much kind of feel and release that's needed to help them gather into what you have in mind, even though it certainly can be a like, oh, okay. Without the timing, it can be pretty confusing because it is
Yeah.
closer, there's not as much space to get it wrong without running into something, right?
Hmm.
So I was
A
going
lot.
to say the soft feel in particular, but even reaching a front foot, if you're not thinking that, right? So I can think of numerous examples of horses that go very nicely for me or for Eva or for Stephanie. Um, and then someone else is riding them that's working wholeheartedly with focus and devotion and maybe has real, or someone with a lot of experience riding a different way has really nice feel and soft hands but isn't
Mhm.
operating the same way, and the horse just like doesn't have a clue, even though they do have a clue, and they'll just pack themselves up and go around on a float and follow it. But there's so many little, it really is the feel and the float, that offering it and letting them do it on a float, that is the ticket to them moving their own body, right? And if you're in the way of that or out of time with that, things just will not. I mean, you could say it will fall apart quickly, but it's not even necessarily fall apart. The horse is just kind of a little confused as to what the goal is, given the difference in the feel. So,
Yeah, and that's one that can be, missed. Again, sort of helping a horse go round and soft under saddle in a shorter rectangle is a little bit the opposite of going to stand on the pedestal or jump
yes.
the rails. It's like the literal opposite of obvious.
Yeah.
Although, it's like they like them both quite a lot.
Yeah. Although when you can get them there, they're like, yeah, wow, this is way
Sure.
better. Right.
Mhm. Yeah,
I dig
exactly.
this. Yeah.
And that's the part, like, we're just on the edge with Rosie of her going like, eh. And the canter online is good, big, big one for her, because it'll be, she's been really scared of the tarp and of like a few things, so for her to really kind of have a chance to just chip away at something that will be obvious when she gets it, but isn't as obvious, on the way. And, she's calm enough to do it. The other one is River right now because she, in soft feel and trot, she's tried all sorts of different things. And she definitely, when I first started riding her, had learned to lean on the bit and grind on the bit. Like, one of those things like, I'm going to wear this pressure off. And that was like, so of course she's over that. But the other day when I was riding her, she found the bouncy trot. And I was like, made a huge fuss. And it's like she just accidentally, but I was like, oh my God, and she's like, what? I'm like, mm-hmm. So we did it a couple more times and it was, I don't even know. It took all my willpower to just not drill it.
Hmm.
You know, come on, Emma, just get up. And and so I'm excited to have another go at it and see if she, oh yeah, Michelle. And it was like, and on the little pony, it's like boing, boing, boing. So fun. Because she kind of has to manufacture it a little bit. She doesn't have a ton of suspension. At least it's not the hardest thing in the world for her, but anyway, very much less obvious, right? Even less obvious. And so we'll see next time, because once they get any of that, I guess, right, Michael, it's like once they sort of get any of that and have come to it, I don't know, how would you say that? Because it's like, let's say the bouncy trot, there's a thousand things going on to set
Hmm.
that up. Especially Michelle, the way I was doing it, because I wasn't using big Noah's Arcs. I'm in the round pen, so it's quite a bit like doing stuff, all the things, but in a more compressed, like, kind of fashion. And even harder than just having a horse kind of in a working frame. you know. So, and yet, Michael, and yet, clear as day, she's like, what?
Mhm.
But so that thing in and of itself, the her noticing that I noticed. And again, back to the Rosie example, little bit the jumping the barrels, just her noticing that I noticed that she was thinking about jumping the barrels.
Mhm.
Those are the seeds that you're like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to tell you guys, in case some of you wanted to, probably some of you have used this sort of idea, but I just thought it would be worth mentioning in case some of you guys have it. So Rosie's been extremely herd bound. Oh, this weekend, Michael, Dad and I were watching, and I see Rosie like grazing far from the herd, like meaning like 60 feet. And she would go everywhere with Remy, everywhere. And not in a stressed out way, or she's been getting more and more relaxed, and at least they're not touching all the time and things like that. But for her to be on the opposite side of the herd from him, it was noticeable. I mentioned it to Dad. Well, then yesterday, all the herd is at the gate. And I'm like, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I'm like, who's missing? You know, Here's Rosie all the way around the buildings down at the water trough. And she's walking back, and I'm like,
Mm.
cool. Those, like, that's a thing. No, she's been here 2 years. That's a thing. So, anyways, the round pen, and Gabrielle, so the round pen is in the amongst of, if you look at some of those videos, you'll see like the horses are all around. So when I'm working other horses, she has been watching, so there's that. Sometimes, not staring like Davina's like supervising all the time, but she does, because she's such a lazy bones. She's like, I'll just watch what you guys are doing. Anyway, it was a big deal. Far, and just walking like back to the gang, walking and nodding. So anyway, going through the barn at the end of the session, going through the barn to the other side towards the house, and just to kind of go and come back, right? And so the fact that she can kind of go with me on a long, lead rope over the crook of my arm, and not crashing around, or whatever. Anyways, there's pine cones all over the place, you guys, since we live in the forest. And so I just started picking up pine cones for something to do. That wasn't like all concerned about what she was doing or having to move her feet, or having, so long as she was kind of with me, we'd sort of just pick up a handful of pine cones, walk over to the edge, throw them, at the edge of the driveway, throw them over there, and and I was just thinking, this is perfect. Like, this is a perfect made up job to do, that takes a little bit of sticking with you, but not staring at her. She has enough going on that she can kind of hang with it. So I'm curious how that works. And I was like, how much I hate to acquiesce to the horse just needs to have a little job to do. So resistant to that. But that's, sure enough, that's what it was. So we'll see how that adds up. But anyway, the idea of, and so you think about the people that are just starting to learn some of these things, Michael, and I think of what is the psychology of the person learning to hunt up the horse, learning that they have something in mind.
Yeah.
So Michael has to go, you guys. So any other thoughts before we go for the day? I'm really
No,
hoping to pull off.
if I can get my shit together, I have a few videos to send you, and see what you think on a
Yay.
couple different horses.
Oh, cool.
That might further this discussion slash redirect this discussion for next week if we get to it, or if we want to, unless we have something else we want to get on to. But
Cool. That sounds great. Well, happy May 1st.
yeah,
Tomorrow. Yeah. And roll on horsemanship season. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, we hope everybody has a good week and we'll see you next Thursday morning. Side note, I am definitely having thoughts of putting the replays at Horsemanship Insider. And I might make it like that part of it free so people can watch it back. But you guys, what will happen is instead of the AI strip mining the show, um when we stream it live, it's not being mined. But if I publish it afterwards, then the whole show gets strip mined. So, what I'm definitely thinking of doing is having the replays at Horsemanship Insider. And I'm probably just making, it some way. Because if I just gate it to in some way, then the AI can't go in there and just strip it. But people could still watch it for free. So,
good
I'm having
solution.
that. So, yeah, Lisa, I know. May already. Yep. Okay, you guys. Well, Michael and I will see you next Thursday morning here live on YouTube at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
8:30 Central.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.